Hey folks, something a little different from what you're used to seeing on my channel today. This is my 2012 Chrysler 300S. It is 5.7 with the 5-speed auto. And I've owned this thing a little over a year now, and I love it. It runs good, drives nice, rides nice, corners well. It's got all the tricks and the features. It's got the panoramic sunroof, black leather interior. The only thing it doesn't have that I would love to get is the cooled leather seats, but that's a project for a different time. Anyway, about a year ago, in September of last year, we had a deer in this thing, and it busted the brackets on the headlight and smashed the bumper up a little bit, cracked the paint, broke a couple other things. So I got my insurance payout, and instead of going back to the original bumper, which you can see here, really all this needs is sanded down and reshot with some black paint. But instead of going back to that bumper, I wanted to go to the SRT8 front end. This same front end was used on the John Varvatos edition and the Lancia Thema, I believe I pronounced that correctly, 2012 through 2014. The problem I ran into with doing this swap, everything else, just about everything else, bolted right up. Sorry about that. The adaptive cruise sensor. When you're swapping this front end onto a car, or the 17 and up appearance package onto a car that has the adaptive cruise sensor, it's got to move around. I don't know why they didn't just put it in one spot, but they didn't. On the stock bumper, you can see it's way over here towards the fog light. That's where your adaptive cruise sensor sits. On the SRT front end, it's moved in towards the grill, probably 10 inches or so. I was hoping, and the internet forums that I read said maybe you could just move the stock bracket over and get it to line up. There's already holes punched in the crash bar, and one of them just needs a rib nut put in it. So I did that, moved it over, put the bumper on, and obviously doesn't quite jive. So what I'm running into is the stock sensor bracket is wider at the top, narrows down, comes down, supports the sensor. The one I need, the SRT sensor, is skinnier at the top, comes down, widens out, and is further forward, further to the passenger side of the car, and up just a little bit. That's the one I need. So if you're doing this swap, you're relegated to either finding the correct bracket or modifying the one you have to make it work. That means cutting it up and adding material and welding it back in the right spot. And if you're not at least somewhat handy with a welder and an angle grinder, you're gonna have a hard time doing that. And then after it's all said and done, you'll have to go and get it leveled out and calibrated. Something to note on the crash bar, the foam impact strip doesn't swap over. You can make it work. You can do what I did and just cut the lower grill off of it, because the original, that lower grill sat back in behind there and was part of the foam crash bar. So I just bobbed it off, slapped it on here, and it works. If you want to do it right, you can order the correct one from like Rock Auto or carparts.com. The problem is this little sensor in the bracket. The correct one I need is $1,500 or more online, when I've got less than $1,500 in this whole front swap, including a new old stock headlight, new used headlight. I'm not going to drop $1,500 on that sensor bracket. I think I found a lead on one from one of the Facebook groups I'm in. We'll see where that goes, for like $100 or so. If you're doing the 17 and up appearance package on your 300, 300C, 300S, the sensor gets moved directly to the middle. That bracket is perfectly even all the way down. There's no wider or narrower part to it from what I've seen. Again, you might be able to move it over and make it work, but with that, I think you can buy just the bracket for $100 or so, and that'd be much easier to do. The other things that don't swap over, obviously the lower grille, the fog light bezels, and these bumperettes. I learned that the hard way that they're longer and skinnier on this car than they are on this front end. So those I had to swap, or didn't swap. I had to order new ones, but the grille swaps over, the fog lights swap over, the harness swaps over. The harness is a little wonky. If you look in here real close, you can see, let's see if I can get the right camera angle. You can see the harness for the park sensors just kind of lays on top of the crash bar, the foam impact strip. So that's not ideal if you're going to the mesh grill from the slat grill. If you go to the mesh grill, you will see that laying back there, and there's something you have to do to get it to jive. But other than that, it swaps over pretty nice. This bumper came from Rock Auto. It was something like $180 and was freight shipped, and a semi pulled up in front of my house and dropped it off. Did not come folded or anything. There are plenty of manufacturers that will ship their bumper covers folded. It's not a big deal. You'll just lay them out in the sun for a few hours, and the sun should help warp the plastic back into shape. This one, I'm impressed with how well it fits above the headlights. I was worried that we'd get that bow to it like I see in a lot of pictures. But this one fits flush, fits really nice. So props to cheapo company through Rock Auto that I got that from. Other than that, that's about it. If you're doing the 17 and up appearance package, my understanding is the core support, the radiator support, has to be swapped. There's something a little different about it, but really with the front end off, it's not difficult to get to and do. There's a dozen or so bolts, and pops right out, drop the new one in, attach it, and go. I added smoked mirror turn signals, which look pretty slick. Let me hit the key. Sequentials. I like those. They're a $40 investment, and they really change up the look of the side of the car in my mind. But other than that, she's pretty well stocked for the moment. I'll do a cold air intake and exhaust and all that later, but I'm running low on funds at the moment, so I need to simmer down a little bit. Anyway, as far as actually doing the removal and install of the front bumper, there's another gentleman on YouTube here that has a very nice comprehensive video on how to take it off, how to put it on. I suggest you go and watch that if you're looking for advice on that. If you got any other questions, hit me up in the comments. Thanks.